Hey, everybody, welcome to Average Guy Opinions. I'm your average guy, John Corelli. I guess this is the fourth of four parts, I guess. Just talking about the first two parts were within one video, 22 minutes, that talked about my recent relationships and my attempt to grow and be a better person through them, through truth and pain, and not dealing in an angry way, trying to lead with love, which can often be hard for, I think, men of my generation because we weren't taught that. And I mentioned in my last video in episode 12 how my father didn't get love. My biological father didn't get love, and he didn't know how to often lead with love. I think he did it first, like I said. When I was little, it sounded like he did a great job. But once the divorce happened, there was a lot of bitterness, and it was hard for him to treat me as a human individual rather than something that needed to be molded into something he liked. So with that, I want to talk about my stepfather. My stepfather came into my life right after my dad kind of went out. My dad, like I said in the last video, he was there on every other weekend, usually. And he does get credit for not just taking off. So my stepdad was the main father figure in my life from ages 7 to 17, from 1974 to 1985, essentially. Lived in the same house. Functional alcoholic. My mom's probably watching. She doesn't like that term, but it is what it is. And it's not like I say, he wasn't a rarely angry alcoholic, just needed his bourbon and water after every shift, being an in-town trucker in the late 70s until he built up a business. But I couldn't approach him. Rarely could approach him when he was sober, to be honest with you. And like I said, he was sober most of the time, but it was just not another man in my life, in my young life, that I didn't feel like I could count on for emotional support. Oftentimes, there were a lot of good times, I'm not going to lie. We used to play tennis together, which was pretty cool. He would come to my soccer games, so would my biological father sometimes. But then I came to understand what he went through during his childhood, and I'm going to discuss that just like I did with my father, and try to have an empathetic or at least sympathetic view of what these men went through growing up in the 40s and 50s and even into the 60s, and how it wasn't easy for them. It wasn't it's not a switch you can flip. When your brain is hardwired because your childhood was shit, then you don't just automatically become a great father. I will say this quickly about myself and my two stepbrothers from my stepfather's first marriage. One is 2.5 years younger than me. The other is 5 years younger than me. We all became great fathers. We really did. And I'm not just self-bragging. All three of us have really put ourselves into being good dads. And I don't know if that's because we had dads that weren't really great dads. I mean, they were there, they provided for us in the technical sense, but they just didn't know how to connect with us. And I think we did that all way better. And like I said, I don't know if it's just because Gen X is like, I think a lot of us were like that. Like, my dad's not that great. I'm going to do better. And we did. So I'm really proud of my stepbrothers for doing that. My younger stepbrother has two children, two boys, and my older stepbrother has a daughter, and they're all amazing kids. They're doing great. Last I heard, my kids are doing great. So it's kind of a big deal, So I guess my two dads get. I always like saying my two dads. It reminds me of that sitcom in the '80s where I believe it was a gay couple. I don't even know if they were a gay couple. It was two dads raising a daughter. But yeah, my two dads, I've often said, taught me what not to do, at least as far as raising children. There are a lot of things they did right. We didn't end up so dysfunctional we couldn't become fathers and have generally healthy relationships with our wives. In my case, ex-wife, but you work it out. But understanding my stepfather's background and his childhood, holy shit, every bit as horrific as my dad's. Abuse, neglect. It was a different situation for my stepfather and my father. Like I mentioned, my father was the third out of fourth kids, the classic invisible child. And actually, my younger stepbrother, ended up that too. He ended up being the fourth out of four boys, or third out of four boys. When my half brother came into the picture, when I was 10, and he developed a bitter hatred for my stepfather, which still unfortunately exists to this day. But knowing my stepfather's upbringing and the coldness that appeared to exist in that house, he doesn't talk about it a lot, which is okay. But I do have an understanding from when I was young, and sometimes was able to interact with his parents, my step grandfather and step grandmother, very well-to-do, educated, intelligent. I'm not going to say wealthy, but rich, very, very, very well off, and understanding that environment that my stepfather had to be raised in and the expectations they had out of that man. Get emotional again, because he was the oldest out of 5. He bookended, he and my step uncle, bookended 5 children. 3 daughters, male-wise, bookended. So was my stepfather, 3 step aunts, and a step uncle. And man, it sounded like the expectations of that man, and all those kids, but especially being the oldest, being named Junior, right? Being named after your father, and having the expectations of that man that had accomplished a lot, and probably had high expectations probably had a lot of expectations himself. But you look at, oh wow, you're really well off. You owned horses and ponies and stuff, and you were raised on a farm, and it sounds like you had to want for nothing, and your college was paid for at first until you started fucking up and started paying for your own college, which was an amazing lesson that man taught me when I was figuring my life out. This is a big gift he gave me. Get emotional again, because this was huge. We didn't have a good relationship. We still have a weird relationship. We get along. That's about it. And it's okay. We love each other, but we don't show it. It's the same with my biological father. But these men show love in the way that they had to, right? That there were very rarely hugs or kisses. There were very rarely I love yous in their lives. So they didn't understand how to do it. But the way my stepfather showed me love back in 1985, 86, probably 85, right after I graduated high school. I believe it was after I'd been kicked out. But, we were still on good terms. I was on good terms with my mom and my stepdad. I understood that I was being a dipshit. I wasn't a criminal or anything, but I just wasn't living up to any potential. And it was frustrating. That's frustrating when you have a kid and they're just fucking it off. It's hard to watch. So I understand. It was a kick in the pants that I needed, and I've always been thankful to my mom about it. But this was also what I was thankful for, is my stepfather took me to the side. We sat down. I remember it clearly. Sat down at that dining room table where I used to hate to sit across from him because he was often hostile, and it sucked. And I know it's the reason I don't care about dining at a dining table anymore. I think it's overrated because it sucked. He was often not in a good place, and I had to sit 3 or 4 feet right across from him. And I'm just watching him. We're not connecting. We're not communicating. It sucked. Because of the same thing probably happened to him when he was a kid. Anyway, but back to, sorry, I keep digressing. He took me to the side in 1985 at that dining room table, and he said, "Where do you think you're headed?" And I honestly, and a lot of us in 1985 didn't know. We were worried about nuclear holocaust, for fuck's sake. We were like, I don't know, go to college, not go to college, does it really matter? We're all dead in 5 years. But I wasn't sure. When I was working retail at the time, I was like, maybe I'll go into this. Maybe I'll go into the military like you did. He went into the Air Force, did his 4 years. He's like, dude, don't go to the military. You do not have the right personality for it. You are not built for it. I think you can follow instructions, but I don't think you can take orders. He said, John, when you sign that piece of paper for those 4 years, they own you. And that really resonated. I get emotional because I'm thankful for that. Because I wouldn't have done well in the military. And if I had done well in the military, maybe things would have ended up different. It could have ended up horrifically different. So luckily I found my path. And for a couple semesters, his mother helped me out financially with college. And I did shitty. I flunked out my first year, wasted money. And he came to me again. He said, you need to pay for your own shit. He told me his lesson, which I mentioned earlier in this video, where he went to college. It was paid for by his parents, and he fucked it off. He said when he paid for his own college, it mattered. he didn't want to fuck off his own money. And I did. I ended up putting myself through college. I worked full time, went to school full time. Really fucking proud of it. It's one of my best achievements in my life. No school loans, no debt when I left, and a fucking 4-year degree with a little extra, actually. I didn't finish my teaching certificate, but I got through. And I had the best years of my life. Made lifelong friends at that job. Partied a lot. Studied a lot. Learned a lot. Grew a lot. It was a great it's actually 7 years. I didn't graduate till 1993. But it was wonderful, and I think I have my stepdad in a large part to thank for that. So knowing these men have come from this pain, they've done really well. We all have faults, and that's what I'm learning. Everyone does. The people I love have faults. I have bunches of faults. But I do appreciate the people that are in my life because they tried. I think they tried the best they could. Like I said, I got issues with these men still. Some of the things they did, some of the things they said. But you get past it because it's been a great many years, right? You got to get past it and move forward and be thankful for what they gave you. Don't worry about what they didn't give you. Be thankful for what you got. Okay, there's my going on nearly 12 minutes. But I had to do these last 2 videos to let you guys know and let myself and remind myself that these men were not all bad. Had some bad qualities for sure, but also had some amazing qualities. I mean, I watched my stepdad build a business from scratch. A very, very successful business, which I'm actually benefiting from because I get to live in his house for a cheap rent. I get to raise my kids in a home. I get to be near my parents if I need them or they need me. So, like I said, this is where you appreciate who you had in your life, what they gave to you. Don't worry about what they didn't give because it's in the end, you can get past it because you're strong. And in a lot of ways, these are the people that made you strong. All right, so there's my, there's another video. I'm cranking out a lot today on Martin Luther King Day. I'll get these posted soon. And like I say, I'm growing from them. I hope you can too. Try to be kind to yourself and to others, which is something my principal says every day at our staff meetings. And I don't think she gets a lot of credit for it, and it's a big deal. Be kind to yourself and others. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.